So a really quick recap of that whole Docker run thing we just did. So this here is our Docker host. Linux, Windows, on-prem, in the cloud. We don't care, do we? Well, it's running the Docker client and the Docker daemon. You'll often hear that combo referred to as the Docker engine, though sometimes Docker engine might just be used to refer to the daemon part. Either way, a standard Docker install gives you the client and the daemon on the same host. Okay, we issued a dead simple Docker run command. That was the client component. It interpreted that command and made the appropriate API calls to the daemon. So, right there, we learn that it's obviously the Docker daemon that implements the Docker Remote API. Again, sometimes you might hear that called the Docker Engine API. Either way, right, it's a client-server model. Now, Docker Run basically says, start me a new container, and then we had to specify the image that we want to use as the template for the container. We said, use the Hello World image. So, the daemon checked its local store to see if it already had a copy of it. In our case, it did not. So, what to do? Well, it needs the image in order to start the container. So, what it did was, it went and searched for it on Docker Hub. Now, Docker Hub is what we call a Docker image registry, a place, right, where we can store images that we want to use later for containers. Well, Docker Hub's the default registry that the daemon uses, and it's out there on the public internet, though other registries totally exist, including secure on-premises registries like Docker Trusted Registry, plus other public and private offerings from third-party ecosystem partners. The point being, the Docker daemon didn't have the required image locally, so it went and searched a registry for it. It found it and pulled it locally. Remember, pull is just Docker lingo for making a local copy. Once the image was pulled locally, the daemon did the heavy lifting needed to create and spin up a brand new container, based of course on the configuration inside of the Hello World image. Now, cutting a long story short, that effectively translated into starting a new container that ran a simple command to display some text to the screen, including the words Hello World. And as that was the only thing the Hello World image was configured to do, the container did that job and it exited. That left us with a local copy of the Hello World image in our Docker host's local registry. Again, that's a fancy way of saying on the Docker host's local file system. Plus, we also ended up with a single container in the exited or stopped state. Fabulous stuff, and hopefully crystal clear. Well, let's go and do a bit more with containers.